Well, apparently you did, and here you are. Mark, tell us a little bit about growing up in Kokomo. What was something that was kind of cool or unique about there, or maybe something about your home life or school?
Well, we actually lived out in the country.
Okay.
We lived 9 miles outside of town, and we had horses. We had dogs, cats, ducks, chickens. At one point or another, we had sheep. We had go-karts and motorcycles, and uh, it was a great place to find trouble. And
So,
Trouble and I were pretty good friends back in the day.
all right, let's go there for a second. What was a troubling thing that happened or something you got in trouble with?
Oh, the first one that comes to mind would actually two. One would either be almost burning down the barn or
Okay.
uh, having the police escort me home from skipping school and riding the motorcycle out on the roads
Wow.
when I was, I think, 13, 14, something like that.
So something like that was just not an isolated incident. There was
No,
there was a few other
We don't have time.
getting
Yeah.
troubles.
Yeah.
Well, let's fast forward just a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your careers, kind of what you folks have been up to, your work life, or anything along that line. Mark, start with you.
For the last 20 plus years, I've been a co-owner in the corner cabinet countertop business in Greenwood,
Okay.
and been providing anything that has to do with cabinetry or countertops in just commercial, residential, anything that goes along with that. Anything from mantles for fireplaces to bookcases to home offices to bars in the basement to it just goes on and
Yeah.
on.
So if you go in somebody's home or business around Greenwood, Whiteland, Franklin, we might see some of your handiwork in the
Yeah, very
cabinet.
much so.
Very good. Julie, how about you? Tell me a little bit about your career, what you've been up to.
Okay. Well, I am in the writing and have been in publishing that field also. But most recently, I worked for a fundraising consulting firm in Greenwood,
Okay.
and what I did was write compelling, hopefully compelling case statements, we called them, that described it was for nonprofits, and so it described like a project that they were wanting to raise money for, and so
This grant writing type of thing, or
it's close to grant writing, very similar, but this would be written for a feasibility study to test the project. Like maybe it's a big university and it's a big science building, or
okay,
it's
I
a new
see.
exhibit at the zoo or something.
So it sound like relatively technical writing to me.
More persuasive writing, that part
Persuasive
of it.
writing. Okay.
Yeah, and then at the end of the project or end of our study, we would do a report that basically gave them advice on, are you ready for a campaign, or here's the amount we think you can raise.
So you're doing writing as part of your job. Have you done your writing just for your own pleasure, or do you kind of your writing project, this type of things you've been working on?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I think I'm in it so much every day that I don't do a lot of that. I do some journaling, but
there you go.
I've thought definitely about, do I need to write that novel someday or something? Just haven't.
I asked because I've been working on a book of my own here recently.
We'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. So, well, Mark, let's kind of let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about your either faith-based experience or church experience kind of growing up and how that evolved over time. Just tell me about that a little bit, if any.
We went to church. We would go through, I felt like we were streaky. We would go for a while, and then generally it would be spring would come along, and there was so many things to get done, around the house and out in the barn, taking care of the animals or whatever it was. Felt like in the summertime we would fall off from church. Thus, it was difficult to kind of connect with everybody when you're in and out so much. I knew the other youth in the church, but to say I was close to them would be, not necessarily true. Even the one dear friend I had, we weren't super close, but we knew each other for so long that it blossomed eventually into a pretty good friendship while we were at Purdue.
Yeah, very good. Was church a part of your life at all in your adult years?
No, heavens no. Once you escape the clutches, man, I did not want to go back at all. And we had our first son, and my wife announced that it was time for us to go to church. And it was like, okay, if we find the right one, and totally convinced there's no way in the world we'd find the right church, because I could always find something wrong with it. And that didn't work out real good. But yeah, so we started going to church about the time our first was born, and been involved in it ever since.
Very good. We'll come back to that. We'll just go to you, Julie, basically a similar thing. A little bit about your faith life, if any, growing up, and then kind of in adult years.
Mhm. Well, actually, a little bit similar. I think we were a little bit streaky too, and we went to church. We went to a Methodist church when I was growing up, and uh, I think in our case, it was my parents' business. They both worked at the hardware store. My mother was responsible for the bookkeeping and all of that, as well as working in the store. And so anyway, just busyness, I think, would keep us out sometimes. But I felt maybe a little bit more connected than he did. And I took piano lessons from the pastor's wife at church and so forth. But I feel like when I was younger is when we were a little bit more faithful in terms of going to church, and then not as much in my teenage years. But I still, you know, felt connected, and I'd go to church with friends sometimes and so forth. Not so much in college, pretty much, it would be more occasional in college. And then, as he said, I think we started talking about it, when we got married, but then when, we had a son, then it was like, we really need to get back to church. So
You just got to backtrack a little. You have the one son, or do you have other
we have
children?
two. Yeah.
Two sons.
Mhm.
And so that seemed like that was kind of a pivotal moment that got you into church then, having children. So tell me a little bit about that church experience. Was it edifying to you? Was it something you got involved with, or was it something you just kind of just did as a part of your lifestyle?
Mhm. Well, we did get involved in it. We
Okay.
were invited immediately to this couples in Christ class, it was called. And it turned out to be just a great community of people at the same age and stage that we were, basically starting
Mhm.
families. Maybe they had, young children already. And those people became just basically our family.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, our parents both had moved out of state, or during that time. My parents moved to Florida, and at least for part of the year, and then his parents moved to Kentucky, and so we were a little bit stranded. And
Okay.
so those
Yep.
folks
It
became dear
became
friends, and a lot of them are still dear friends today.
those connections were important.
Yeah, very important.
Mark, was that kind of similar for you? Were you as involved as well as she
Yeah,
said?
absolutely,
Yeah. Very.
absolutely. Met some great people, but I have to stress that the the people I met were people that I did not want to meet at the
Mhm.
beginning.
So
Uh,
you're a little bit hesitant, huh?
oh, hesitant's not even close to the
Yeah.
right word. We're just I wanted to be the wallflower and watch, and
Right.
uh, dear Julie said no. Grabbed me, and not this
Different
Julie,
Julie.
different Julie.
Okay.
And she just grabbed us and drug us into it, and I went in kicking and screaming.
Julie
And
was a
then,
part of the church who
yes,
got you. Okay, I got
yes, and then eventually, you turn around and you're like, "Wow, these are really cool people,"
you. Yeah. Well,
and
that's awesome.
and
They
they
just loved on
made
us.
it, yeah, made a
That's
huge impact on us.
that's a great way to put it. They loved on you. That's good. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit. How did HeavenEarth Church get on your radar initially, and kind of what got you here to check this out? Julie, start with you.
Well, I first heard about HeavenEarth Church when I was on the board for Bridges Alliance of Johnson County. And Ross came to a meeting or two and spoke, or, had some involvement there. And I know he's still involved today. Um, so that was just kind of had been in the back of my mind, but we were going to a different church. And then we were invited to come by our friends, Ralph and Lucy Hill, just at the end of last year, the end of 24. And they had talked about it and said that they just really enjoyed it, and how genuine people were, and that the sermons really connected, and they loved the format of having a conversation.
Mhm.
And that was really intriguing to us.
Did you give me some first impressions you had, Mark? Because what I'm interested in is because you said your prior church experience, you were hesitant and wanted to
Mhm.
kind of be as you said, the kind of the wallflower, maybe whatever the terminology you
Yeah.
use, kind of check it out. Was it kind of a similar thing when you came to check out Heaven Earth Church?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Because of our experience for the last 35 plus years, I've grown more comfortable with my faith. I've grown more comfortable with who I am, and so for us, when we walked in that very first Sunday, I really didn't know what to expect. I don't know that Julie did completely either, but we had a baptism,
Hmm.
and it was just so refreshing because there were aspects to that baptism that I hadn't seen in a number of years, and it was uh, it was something that drew us in. And then we sit down for the discussion, which some people would call the sermon or the message or whatever. But it, you know, Ross started off saying we were going to have this discussion. I didn't know what was coming on, and then he starts asking questions of the congregation, and it was like my head spun. It was what's this?
Yeah.
And that format, and then the authenticity in which he presents his message or the discussion for that day, uh, just absolutely blew me away.
Yeah.
It was refreshing. It was thought provoking. It was continuously, the message stays with you for the whole week.
Yeah.
So that when Saturday comes, it's not a matter of are we going to church? It is tomorrow. Are we
Yeah.
going to church tomorrow? It is.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait.
Understood expectation.
Yeah, because you're just anxious to hear,
You want to do it.
page 2, if you will, of
Right.
what Ross has to say, or what message he's bringing, or how he's going to bring it. Because it's like I said, it's fresh and it's
So
intriguing.
you
Also,
may have already touched on this in a way, Mark, but what would you think was kind of an aha moment when you kind of, okay, this is a little bit more than this, checking this out. This may just be something I want to get more involved with. Was there kind of that moment for you, kind of a illuminating or aha moment?
I don't know that there was actually, as you say, an aha moment, but from the minute we walked in,
Hmm?
we felt comfortable. We were greeted, but it wasn't. I think when people, hopefully people will understand what I'm saying. The people were not over the top. It was genuine greetings. It was um, not just, "Hey, how are you today?" It was more of, "How are you today?"
Mhm.
I can't really describe it, but the authenticity of the members uh, just was very warm. And then, like I said, and then the message, and then the
Right.
baptism, and we
So
just
that's
walked out of here and went,
so
"That was
really
cool."
from early on, you felt very comfortable and kind of connected.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely,
very good.
absolutely.
Julie, what do you, what then, Mark may have touched on this here, but what keeps you a part of this community here at Heaven Earth Church? What keeps you here, and what kind of things out of that may be attractive to others?
Mhm. Um, I think part of it is that I want to learn more. Like I'm intrigued every week by what Ross is saying and how excited and passionate he is about what he's learning at the same time. And I feel like we're, you know, yes, he's teaching us, but also he's learning alongside us, and that's really cool to me.
Hmm.
And then the other part is just the people. I just every week I feel like I meet somebody, meet somebody new or get to know a little bit more about somebody. And to a person, everyone that I've met has been feels very genuine, like they're interested in me.
Yeah.
They want to get to know me too. And I think I was thinking about this recently. I feel seen here.
Hmm.
And a lot of in a lot of situations, not just churches, but other situations, I haven't.
Yeah.
So that feels
I love the way
really,
you've turned that phrase to be seen. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I really um think that's a big part of it. It's a little bit hard to describe, but
Yeah.
that's the best way I can do it.
Well, let me kind of put it to you this way. One of the things that, one of the mottos of HeavenEarth Church, it seems like to me, it's on the website and some other places, that basically, if you feel like you don't fit in church, you fit in here, is what it said. Is that true? And if so, how so? Let's just start with you, Julie.
Mhm. I think I think very much so. I look around the room and I see all kinds of people from different ages to different walks of life to, definitely different faith backgrounds. And I love that. I love the diversity of that. And I love that people have different viewpoints that they express during the discussion. And it makes me think. And that's what I have always wanted from church. And sometimes I've had it in the past and sometimes I haven't. Um, but I definitely have that here. I want to learn more. I want to hear different viewpoints, and I feel like anyone can say just about anything here. I mean, within reason, um, and people will listen and see them, and it will maybe turn the discussion a little different way than what it may have what may have been intended. But
Yeah.
we can always learn from that.
So not only to be seen, but to be heard. It
Yes.
sounds like
Mhm.
to me what you're saying. So I've got to ask you this. Another one of the things that's said around here, part of the mission of the church, is it said that it says we exist to make a lasting impact on our community. So I'm going to ask you, Mark, and from the perspective not only of attending church here, but also as a guy who's in business in our community, who finds yourself working with people's homes and businesses and just part of the fabric of the community. Uh, is that true? And if so, how is this impact being made?
I am still learning how that impact is being made. But I do know that one of the major factors that uh, inspired us to continue with this church is the local aspect of giving, to sharing, to being involved with it. That has always been something that I bristled at with other churches. Talk, the old saying, talk is cheap.
Hmm.
When other churches would talk about it, a lot of times I felt, and again, I'm not saying I know exactly how every church that we went to did it, but it felt like it was just talk. And when we started coming here, it was readily apparent that we weren't going to, as a congregation, we're not going to just sit still. So we went in, they went and decorated a house for Christmas.
Okay.
They delivered Christmas presents.
Right.
They do things. They have the recovery church on Wednesdays. There are so many things that are going on in our community that when I hear the story of the Good Samaritan, I always think of what's here
Yeah.
that we need to do.
Yeah. That's awesome because you have these tangible examples of how the church has been involved personally in people's lives,
Yes.
right in our community. And so that's awesome. So I think that's part of the vision here, is to make an impact that is lasting in our community. And so, having said that, let's just kind of bring it around to this. And I want to kind of bring our conversation around to this because it's a part of this extension of the legacy into the community. Both of you are involved with our community in many ways. You have interactions with people in your life, not only in business and your workplace, but in personally and socially in other ways. Let's just say that somebody in your life comes to you and has something going on. Maybe there's a business problem or marital thing or you know health related thing or some issue that they've confided in you about. So, Julie, I ask you first: is this the type of place that you feel that you'd be comfortable inviting a person in your life to come to be a part of? Kind of helping them to cope with their situation, and if so, what what would that look like? What are the qualities you're looking for there?
Mhm. Yes, I think 100%. I feel like just as we felt welcomed, I think anyone else would hopefully feel the same. And I just will bring that back to, we've had a couple things happen in our lives just since we've been here. And I felt like people just really rallied around us in both of those instances. And um, I'm just sure that would happen again. I mean, people didn't even really know us very well, if at all. And we were really felt surrounded by that already, which is just really amazing to me. So um, I would encourage someone definitely to give it a try. And I think one of the big things that I think about with this church is that your faith can be at this level or at this level, and it or maybe even not at all. And
Mhm.
you come in the door, and I think people are going to feel like they can be here and be accepted and maybe even find a home here.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I asked you basically the same question with this twist on it. And what kind of the twist would simply be, what would you share with someone who may be seeing this or hearing this here today and kind of using it as a part of the process to kind of check out Heaven Earth Church? So can you respond to that?
Wow, that's a tough one. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Oh, well, that's what I'm here to do.
You know, I don't know if I'm going to answer that directly, but as Julie was talking, I was thinking, non-believer, and just come in and just see what you see, just experience it. I think if you have a problem and you're willing to tell one person within the church what's going on, it's not like it's a rumor mill around here. I can't tell you how many times, as Julie alluded to, we've had some upheavals in our life over the last 6 months, but it's not like everybody knows what's going on. It's a smart family.
Yeah.
People are smart enough to know what they can share with others and what they can't. It's very genuine. But whether you believe zero or you believe a lot, you will just truly feel comfortable here, and welcome. I came from a Lutheran background, and there have been times over the years when I thought, man, I kind of miss the Apostles' Creed. I kind of miss the Nicene Creed, because good Lord, we said it every single Sunday.
Yeah, there you go.
And we've on occasion gone back to those formal churches, if you will. And yeah, it was great. It was wonderful, but it wasn't captivating enough to draw me back to my youth of that kind of church where there's just something really special going on here, and it's awesome to be a
Two
part
other
of.
words you use there I think are really cool. One of them is smart. I like that. And part of what we do, we kind of dive deep into issues,
Uh-huh.
life issues,
Yep.
biblical, breaking down the Bible pretty thoroughly,
Mhm.
and an application of those issues into our lives. And I love that. It seemed like you were also sharing there, Mark, that it felt safe, a
Mhm.
safe place to share. And then also that you use the word captivate. I think that's a good word as well, in terms of captivate just means to get your attention and hold your
Mhm.
attention. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. So, well, Julie, I'm going to give you the last word here and in our conversation. It is simply, what would you want to share with someone who may be kind of checking out Heaven Earth Church? Most people check out our church, or many people check it out by online,
Mhm.
either website or videos and audios and things like that. What would you might want to share about your experience?
I think that Heaven Earth is kind of a gentle place to land,
Hmm.
especially if you're exploring maybe your faith for the first time, or you're revisiting your faith, just kind of questioning, like, what do I believe? I think this is a really great place to feel safe, as you said, and just start kind of figuring that out. Um, and if you're someone like us, we were kind of questioning where we were, the church that we were going at, and if it was really a fit for us anymore. And it's a good place to try and just sort of, like I said, explore and see if this is for you. And I would definitely say, if you can't come in person, come in person. because that's where you can really experience the community here. And don't come one Sunday, come a few Sundays to kind of see what it's really like, because every Sunday's different also, which is something that I really like too.
Come and see. Come and
Yeah.
check it out.
Yes.
Well, we thank you for being a part of our conversation here today. We're just pleased to have Mark and Juli Knutson with us, part of the community here at HeavenEarth Church, as we come together here as the HeavenEarth Church Podcast. My name is Brad Miller, one of the hosts of the podcast. This is the podcast for the church for folks who want to make a lasting impact in our community.